Okay, here we go. Welcome to session number 261 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. We are in the Manual for Teachers, and we will focus on question 12. How many teachers of God are needed to save the world? Okay, let's just jump right in. The answer to this question is one. All right, now just let me stop there. Dr. Wapnick said this was Jesus putting to rest any ideas of what they used to call the 100th monkey syndrome or something like that. And in other words, if enough people had raised their consciousness, all of a sudden the consciousness of the world would change, But he's going to be telling you, this is going to be really speaking from the metaphysics of the Course, which will tell you there's only oneness, there's only one Son of God. Right? Even though that Son thinks it's separated and burst into gazillions of pieces, untold number of gazillions. All right. So, the answer to this question, how many teachers of God are needed to save the world, is one. One wholly perfect teacher whose learning is complete suffices. This one, sanctified and redeemed, becomes the self who is the Son of God. He who was always Holy Spirit now no longer sees himself as a body or even as in a body. Therefore, he is limitless. And being limitless, his thoughts are joined with God's forever and ever. His perception of himself is based upon God's judgment, not his own. Thus does he share God's will and bring his thoughts to still deluded minds. He is forever one because he is as God created him. He has accepted Christ and he is saved. All right. Now, when he says he has accepted Christ, he's not talking about in the evangelical way. Do you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? He's saying that you have accepted the fact that you are the one Son of God. That means you're aware of the oneness. You're aware of the innocence. You are aware of there is no separation between you and God. That's a different story. That's accepting the Christ. And this is a process for us. All right. When he says one wholly perfect teacher whose learning is complete, that means we have learned every lesson we're supposed to learn here. And every lesson we're supposed to learn here reflects the oneness and the innocence. That's what we're here to learn, that there is no separation. All right? There's only the oneness. All right? This one teacher, sanctified and redeemed, becomes the self who is the Son of God. He becomes the self, or she becomes the self that is the Son of God. Right? He who was always Holy Spirit, and that's W-H-O-L-L-Y, not H-O-L-Y. Right? He means entirely. He who was always entirely Spirit now no longer sees himself as a body or even in a body. Therefore, he is limitless. All right. Now, this was the experience of Jesus of Nazareth, as he was called. All right. He knew he was not in the body. He knew he was not a body, but he was here to bring that message of oneness and innocence and love, right, to everyone he encountered. Right. And even those he didn't encounter, because the mind is only one mind, and his awareness connected with the one mind. And being limitless, his thoughts are joined with God forever and ever. Right? His perception of himself is based on God's judgment, not his own. God's judgment is that you never separated. You never sinned. You're innocent. That's God's judgment. You never left the mind. Right? You're innocent. And being limitless, his perception of himself is based on God's judgment, not his own. Thus does he share God's will. All right? And God's will, once again, is oneness, innocence. And bring his thoughts to still deluded minds. So that's what Jesus was doing. He was bringing God's will, the awareness of oneness, the awareness of the connection with the Creator to still deluded minds. Okay? I always hear Groucho Marx saying, I resemble that remark. He is forever one because he is as God created him. He has accepted Christ and he is saved. He has accepted his own innocence, the innocence, and he is saved. Right? Paragraph 2, thus does the Son of Man become the Son of God. Right? That suggests process. Thus does the Son of Man become the Son of God. It is not really a change, it is a change of mind. Nothing external alters, but everything internal now reflects only the love of God. God can no longer be feared, for the mind sees no cause for punishment. God's teachers appear to be many, for that is the world's need. Yet being joined in one purpose and one they share with God, how could they be separate from each other? What does it matter if they appear in many forms? Their minds are one. Their joining is complete. And God works through them now as one, for that is what they are. Once again, that wonderful saying, the truth is one. The sages know it by many names. Right? The truth can take many forms because that is what this world needs. This is a world of separate forms. We believe we're separate. And so the truth needs to come to us in a vehicle, in some kind of a manner, in some kind of form, that we can understand. This book is a form through which comes the truth. And it's not the only way to hear the truth. Right? It's not the only way to hear the voice of God. All right. You know, a lot of religions say, we're the one true religion. It's not. You know, that's so 15th century, okay? He says, nothing changes. Nothing external alters. All right, everything is the way it is. What changes is my perception. I see things differently now because internally I'm aware of the oneness, the innocence, the connection with everything, right? The all it is. I'm aware of that, and everything I see reflects that to me. Right? And I bring that with me. I don't need to preach. I don't need to teach. Right? Those that are in my presence, right, will receive the benefit of that message. And everyone, people that I never meet, will receive that benefit because the mind is one. Okay? And what he means by it, he brings his thoughts to still deluded minds. Right? People that think that me saying things like that is just botso, it's just crazy. Right? Because they're still living in the delusion. They're still living in the thought that they separated. And now they gotta, they gotta get theirs. They gotta protect themselves. They gotta do all kinds of stuff. Right? But nothing external changes. Everything is internal now, and it reflects only the love of God. And because of that, God can no longer be feared. God is not fearful. God is not angry. That is not the God of the Garden of Eden, or the God of the Old Testament, I might say. That guy was pissed off on quite a few occasions. Right? But that's the product of deluded minds. That's the product of separated thinking, projecting that God behaves like a separated individual. Right? God can no longer be feared in this mindset, this holy instant. For the mind sees no cause for punishment. You didn't do anything. You're not guilty. There's no cause for punishment. God's teachers appear to be many, for that is what is the world's need. Right? Because there's just so many people that see so many different forms, so many different traditions, so many different languages, and on and on and on. Right? So many differences in just the form of this body. The message will come in a form that you can understand. Right? And for me, it was this book. Right? And as I look back at it, as I read other things, there's other teachers that say the exact same things. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Right? Doesn't matter if you get home by a train, a plane, or automobile, or the back of a turnip truck or something, Doesn't matter. And something has drawn you to a certain path. Right? It's not the form, it's the message. It's the message that deep on a deep level it's familiar and it's comfortable and it's like, I think, it makes me feel better, and more you grow into it, you trust it. Okay? So God's teachers appear to be many, for that is the world's need. Yet being joined in one purpose, and one they share with God, how could they be separate from each other? What does it matter if they appear in many forms? Their minds are one. Their joining is complete, and God works through them now as one, for that is what they are. The truth is one. The sages know it by many names. Okay? The Buddhists, the Taoists, great teachers. Okay. The great yogi Paramahansa Yogananda spoke about the saint in India, Babaji, right, who is the eternal. All right, he has chosen to stay in a form that humans can recognize, but his message is the oneness, the infinite oneness, the connectivity with the Creator. The fact that you never left, you never sinned, you're not guilty. And people are attracted to that. Okay? And they're joined in one purpose, is to give us our innocence, to let us know that God is not angry. We never separated from the Creator. So what does it matter if they appear in many forms? Right? Their joining is complete, their minds are one. And God works through them now as one, for that is what they are. And you see that time doesn't matter either. I mean, Confucius, Lao Tzu, the Buddha, Jesus, they all lived in different eras of time. Well, time doesn't matter either. Right? It's their message that permeates the time. It just comes right through time. Right? Because time is an illusion. Paragraph 3. Why is the illusion of many necessary? Only because reality is not understandable to the deluded. Only very few can hear God's voice at all, and even they cannot communicate His message directly through the Spirit which gave them. They need a medium through which communication becomes possible to those who do not realize that they are spirit. A body they can see, a voice they understand and listen to, without the fear that truth will encounter in them, without the fear that truth would encounter in them. They're afraid of truth. Do not forget that truth can come only where it is welcomed, without fear. So do God's teachers need a body, for their unity could not be recognized directly. Right? It says you need a familiar medium, otherwise you're going to scare the hell out of people. You're going to blow their minds, as they used to say in the 60s. Right? And that reason that one of the reasons why people talked about that phrase, blow your mind, is because the chemicals they were ingesting, right, did something basically to the pineal gland, which just opened it up, and their perception was changed, right? And it was almost like it was, for some people, it was like too much information. It was too much of a difference all at once. All right? And this is what he's telling us. He needs some kind of a familiar figure, like Jesus. All right? Jesus came and he was hanging out with guys and girls, and They recognized him, they trusted him, they liked his message. They were listening to his message. Right? He was trying to tell them that you and the Father are one, which is what he was telling them. I and the Father are one. Right? And remember, he said to them, even as a kid, I can remember, I loved it in the Gospels when he said, the things I do, you will do. Right? And they're not talking about making fish sandwiches and things like that. Right? He's talking about recognizing the oneness. Right? He's not talking about miracles in form. Right? He's talking about lifting the burden of guilt. Right? That's what you will do. That's what he was doing. Lifting the burden of guilt. That's what all the advanced teachers of God are doing. Right? Okay. And God works through them now as one, for that is what they are. So why is the illusion necessary? Only because reality is not understandable to the deluded. A oneness joined as one. It's written somewhere in the text. And Jesus says, you can't understand that. You can't possibly understand that. Because your mind is still saturated with the delusion. Right? A oneness joined as one. He says, that doesn't have any meaning to you. So we have to gradually achieve the awareness of that. Okay? And that's the awareness that if it comes too soon, you might, you just be afraid of it. And, go deeper into the delusions. All right. Only very few can hear God's voice at all. Paragraph 3, sentence 3. All right. His messages directly through the Spirit, which let me do that again. It's getting a little dark here in New York early. Okay. Only very few can hear God's voice at all. And even they cannot communicate his messages directly through the Spirit which gave them. They need a medium through which communication becomes possible to those who do not realize that they are spirit. A body they can see, a voice they understand and listen to, without the fear that truth would encounter in them. So they need a medium. They need the body, the language, right? The words. Right? It's all part of communication. Because if you just sit in the holy instant, knowing that you are part of the oneness, that you are the oneness. He said that you are spirit. He says the still deluded who don't believe they're spirit, who are totally unaware of it, they need something in their realm to help them. Words and bodies, right? Books, So, a body they can see, a voice they understand and listen to without the fear that truth would encounter in them. The truth coming on too strong, you might become afraid of it. You think you're going to lose, you think you lost your mind, you're never going to see your loved ones again. What's happening? Right? The truth encounters that type of fear. So he says, so You need a body. You need words that will help you along. Okay? So, do God's teachers need a body? For their unity could not be recognized directly. Right? Those of us who are still deluded, right, cannot recognize the Spirit directly. So we need teachers. We need someone who can demonstrate the truth, someone who carries the truth in their awareness. Right? And you know, in your experience, you've encountered people that you just know on a very deep, intuitive level that they are loving and kind and trustworthy. You just know it. And that's what we're talking about. All right? We need that medium through which to communicate. All right? Paragraph 4. Yet what makes God's teachers in their recognition of the proper purpose of the body? Yet what makes God's teachers is their recognition of the proper purpose of the body. As they advance in their profession, they become more and more certain that the body's function is but to let God's voice speak through it to human ears. And these ears will carry to the mind of the hearer messages that are not of this world. And the mind will understand because of their source. From this understanding will come the recognition in this new teacher of God of what the body's purpose really is. The only use there really is for it. This lesson is enough to let the thought of unity come in, and what is one is recognized as one. The teachers of God appear to share the illusion of separation, but because of what they use the body for, they do not believe in the illusion despite appearances. All right? Take Jesus as the example, because we're familiar with that in the Western world. The teacher, he appears to share the illusion of separation. He appeared to be like you and me. Guy's got a body, he wears clothes, he eats, doesn't shave. All right. He looks like everybody else. Right? He's sharing the illusion of separation. But he knows what the body is for. This is so he can communicate. Right? He can't just sit up in a cloud and start going, hey, stop that. Be good to one another. Right? It's not going to happen. You need to come down and, like he says in the first question of this manual, teachers, they demonstrate. He was here to demonstrate the unity, the oneness, the innocence. Okay? He knew he wasn't in the body. He knew he wasn't a body. He was like the perfect lucid dreamer. Right? Knowing what the body was for. It was an instrument to get the ball rolling, so to speak. Right? It's just, well, I don't need to make any comments. They just started worshiping the form. That's what happened. I think it might have been Descartes or one of those famous thinkers. who said that Jesus came to point the way to God, and people started worshiping his finger. Okay? And so, they started to go astray from the get, right? From the word go. But here we are. This book is to help us correct the misguided miracle impulses, let's say. It's here to correct the ego thought system that creeped in. All right? The teacher of God appears to share the illusion of separation, but because of what they use the body for, they do not believe in the illusion despite appearances. Right? Jesus didn't believe in the body, despite what it appeared to be. Right? He was demonstrating that the body is nothing. That was the ultimate demonstration. All right? Because the crew was able to see him 3 days later. Okay? What's that all about? They said. Proving that the body was nothing. All right? But this is a process for us. Right? You can't just jump in and say, oh, well, the body's nothing. Right? I'm not going to sit and wonder why my leg is swollen. I'm not going to treat that. I'm not going to get it looked at. Take care of yourself. Right? Be good to yourself. All right? Take care of your body, but work on your mind. Work on uniting with Jesus. Asking him, help me to see the oneness. Help me to appreciate the oneness. It's like that Islamic saying I love. It's like, trust Allah, but tie up your camel. All right? Be practical. Or as Dr. Wapnick was wont to say, be normal. All right? So the teachers of God appear to share the illusion of separation, but because of what they use the body for, they do not believe in the illusion despite appearances. Paragraph 5. The central lesson is always this, that what you use the body for, it will become to you. Use it for sin or for attack, which is the same as sin, and you will see it as sinful. Because it is sinful, it is weak. And being weak, it suffers and it dies. Use it to bring the word of God to those who have it not, and the body becomes holy. Because it is holy, it cannot be sick, nor can it die. When its usefulness is done, it is laid by, and that is all. The mind makes this decision, as it makes all decisions that are responsible for the body's condition. Yet the teacher of God does not make this decision alone. To do that would be to give the body one purpose. To do this would be to give the body another purpose from the one that keeps it holy. God's voice will tell him when he has fulfilled his role, just as it tells him what his function is. He does not suffer either in going or remaining. Sickness is now impossible to him. Right? When we have that ultimate connection with Spirit, with who we truly are, right? With the Christ, we have that awareness, right? He says you won't suffer either in staying here or leaving. So there won't be any suffering. because sickness is now impossible to you. Right? Sickness is impossible because that's a thing of the ego thought system. That's a result in a belief of separation. Right? Even if there is a malady, it's perceived differently. Right? He does not suffer either in going or remaining. Right? So as I mentioned, the Saint Babaji in India, he chose to remain in form. Right? And his form appears at different times. Right? He says he's not suffering. Either way, he's not suffering because he's aware. As Gangaji, a famous teacher, would say, you are that. I mean, what else? You are that. But because we need words, we need more words to describe what that is. And we need a mind who's aware of being that to demonstrate it in form. Okay. That's why in one part of the text, Jesus says that the answers will come to you in a language you understand. It will fit your form and circumstances. Right? If you are connecting and sincerely asking to see the truth. Right? Oneness and sickness cannot coexist, paragraph 6. God's teachers choose to look on dreams a while. It is a conscious choice, for they have learned that all choices are made consciously, with full awareness of their consequences. The dream says otherwise, but who would put his faith in dreams once they are recognized for what they are? Awareness of dreaming is the real function of God's teachers. They watch the dream figures come and go, shift and change, suffer and die, yet they are not deceived by what they see. They recognize that to behold a dream figure as sick and separate is no more real than to regard it as healthy and beautiful. Unity alone is not a thing of dreams. And it is this God's teachers acknowledge as behind the dream, behind all seeming and yet surely theirs. Right? Let me just reread the last couple of sentences. They recognize that to behold a dream figure as sick and separate is no more real than to regard it as healthy and beautiful. Unity alone is not a thing of dreams. And it is this God's teachers acknowledge as behind the dream, beyond all seeming and yet surely theirs. So the unity is behind all the dreams, the oneness. It's beyond all the seeming. All right, whatever the world seems to be, there's only the unity behind it. And it's surely theirs. They are aware of it. All right? They just become mediums of this, of that message. You have never separated. You are not guilty. You have never sinned. Okay. You may have made mistakes, but that's what happens when you believe you're separated. That's the first mistake. So God's teachers, the one teacher is all that's necessary. Because the one teacher just becomes aware of the oneness and realizes that everything was a hallucination. Right? But to choose to walk among the hallucinations is a choice. And the teacher of God will do that to bring the message of unity. Right? Because there's only one mind. This is one class where Dr. Wapnick would refer to the world as one big dissociative identity disorder. It's the one mind having split off and broken into so many countless others. Right? And we bring the teacher of God demonstrates the oneness, demonstrates the connection with the source, with God. All right. So that's how many teachers. So awareness of dreaming is the real function of God's teachers. All right. So we function that everyone sooner or later realizes that, oh, this is a dream. This is a dream. All right. And you have the ability to become a lucid dreamer. Okay. You have never separated. And in one part, Jesus says, you are at home in God, dreaming of exile. And so you become aware of the dream. Yet they are not deceived by what they see. They recognize that to behold a dream figure as sick is no more real than to behold it as healthy and beautiful. Right? Unity alone is not a thing of dreams. And it is this God's teachers acknowledge as behind the dream. God's teachers acknowledge the unity. They bring that awareness with them. And the message is brought to people in many different ways. Okay. All righty then. Thank you for the opportunity to help me study. And I'll see you in the next session.